Hello. Welcome to Little Bighorn Battlefield National Monument. My name is Tanya, playing for the Gardner. I'm a seasonal ranger here at Little Bighorn Battlefield National Monument, and welcome today. Today I'm going to be presenting the battle talk, the Battle of the Little Bighorn. I'd like to begin with the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty. What treaties do during this time period is establish land base. And why I mention this is because it establishes the Great Sioux Reservation. This is the Great Sioux Reservation. This area right here in Dakota Territory. What it also establishes is the unceded territory. That's this pink area here. What this means is that Sioux can come into the unceded territory and hunt. And then they can go back to their reservation, back and forth as they wished. During this time period in 1874, there's an economic collapse in the United States economy. Banks fail. It's basically a depression. The country's broke, the Civil War happened, and they're still recovering. Custer leads an expedition into the Black Hills, takes 1,000 men. He brings prospectors with him with rumors of gold. Well, they discover gold. Word gets back to papers and it spreads like wildfire across the United States. They dub it the new El Dorado of the West. Miners flood into the Black Hills. According to that Fort Laramie Treaty, the Black Hills was to be exclusively for the Sioux. They're outraged. Conflicts take place in the Black Hills and in these areas here. Treaties are broken on both sides. In 1875, the United States government, Ulysses S. Grant as the president, attempts to purchase the Black Hills from the Sioux people. They will not sell their precious Black Hills. To this day, they will not take a penny of the sale of the Black Hills. And that money is sitting in a bank somewhere in the United States. Many of the Indians on the reservation are leaving. Conditions are bleak. During this time period, rations are to be provided. Many of the goods that get to reservations get there rotten, rancid, bad, unedible, if they get there at all. Many are leaving the reservation. One of these individuals is a Nungpapa, spiritual leader, a warrior, a veteran by the name of Sitting Bull. Sitting Bull will tell individuals on the reservation, why make yourselves slaves to a piece of hardtack and bacon? Real men hunt. Sitting Bull will leave the Great Sioux Reservation and head to the unceded territory. Many people will follow him into the unceded territory. And Ulysses S. Grant sees this as an Indian problem. They will annex the Black Hills. They will take them from the Lakota, and they're outraged. They will leave the Great Sioux Reservation. Treaties are broken. An ultimatum is going to be sent out by Ulysses S. Grant. It'll be called the Edict of 1876. This edict is sent out December 1st, 1875, and the deadline is January 31st, and it states, to all reservation Indians, report back to your designated reservation by January 31st, 1876, or you will be deemed hostile and taken back by force by the United States Army. Many of the tribesmen that left the reservation are in the unceded territory. They will never receive this word. Some receive it and ignore it. The deadline will come and pass. Any Sioux not on the reservation is now wanted by the United States government. Full-blown war will be waged. We'll call this the Centennial Campaign. During this time period, the United States is 100 years old. There's a huge celebration going on back east called the World's Fair. Huge celebrations going on in Washington, D.C., Boston, celebrating the 100 years of our country. The Centennial Campaign will be made up of 3 separate columns. One column, the largest, is coming up from Fort Fetterman. This is going to be led by General Crook. General Crook will head north in this direction. He will leave Fort Fetterman May 29th, 1876, and he heads north. Another column is going to be coming from Fort Ellis. This is near present-day Bozeman, Montana. Colonel John Gibbon leaves April 1st, 1876, and he goes down the Yellowstone. The third column is going to be coming from Fort Abraham Lincoln. They leave May 17th, 1876. Now, under General Terry's command is a very popular Civil War hero, Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer, and the 7th Cavalry. The 7th Cavalry is the fastest moving regiment in the Army at the time. You will hear me refer to him as General Custer and Lieutenant Colonel. During the Civil War, this man had horses shot out from under him. He led charges of Army volunteers, leading every charge right with his soldiers, yelling, "Come on, you Wolverines!" He'll earn a brevet or brevet rank of a general. Technically, in the Army, he's a lieutenant colonel. He'll be receiving lieutenant colonel pay. But in the military, you address a soldier or an officer, the highest rank he has ever been granted in this case is a general. And everybody calls him general. These 3 columns are what we call a 3-prong pincer movement. They're to come into the area where the now what are called hostiles, according to the Edict of 1876, round them up and take them back to the reservation. Mid-June, sometime in the beginning of June, Sitting Bull is going to hold a Sundance at a place 42 miles east of us here off Highway 212, 4.5 miles north of Lame Deer on the Bailey property. This place is called Deer Medicine Rocks. This is where Sitting Bull will hold his annual Sundance. In the Sundance, Sitting Bull will make 50 pieces, he'll cut 50 pieces of flesh from his body. He'll sing and dance and not eat or drink anything for approximately 3 to 4 days, and he'll get weary and he'll collapse. And when Sitting Bull collapses during this Sundance, he's going to see a vision of bluecoats falling dead, upside down, decapitated, into an Indian encampment. And this is where the famous quote comes from, "Soldiers falling into camp." And with this vision, Sitting Bull saw a great victory. Many of the Sioux on the Sioux Reservation catch wind of this vision, and many head out to join up with Sitting Bull. Many are coming out to this area to feed their families. They're following herds of wild game and buffalo to survive. 8 days before the Battle of Bighorn, Crook will be where Rosebud Creek begins in the Wolf Mountains, June 17th, 1876. This is where General Crook will encounter approximately 1,200 Lakota and Cheyenne warriors. This is what the Northern Cheyenne call the battle where the sister saved her brother. This sister's name is Buffalo Calf Road Woman. The brother she saved is Holy Road. They later call him Chief Holy Road. In this battle, her brother will be wounded. She rides out, picks him up in the line of fire, puts him on a horse and takes him to safety. She is unharmed. That's why the Cheyennes call this the battle where the sister saved her brother. We know this today to be the Battle of the Rosebud. This is where General Crook and Lakota and Cheyenne warriors will engage into a 6 to 8 hour battle. General Crook will spend a tremendous amount of his ammunition cache. He has wounded men. There are very low casualties on both sides of this battle. Warriors subside after 8 hours and head back to their camp. Crook knows he has to tend to his wounded. Crook is going to head back south, down to a place called Goose Creek. This is Sheridan today. The other players in this three-pronged strategy, the Gibbon and the Terry column, have no idea that Crook has just encountered 1,000 warriors and that he is out for now. The Terry column and Gibbon column meet up on the Yellowstone, where the Tongue River flows into the Yellowstone. At the mouth of where the Rosebud Creek drains into the Yellowstone, this is where Custer will receive his orders from Terry to march up the Rosebud. If and when he encounters any hostiles, use your own discretion. Now, there have been reconnaissance missions that were sent out. They're constantly receiving reconnaissance. Custer's going to be moving up the Rosebud. The Terry Gibbon column will continue to march up the Yellowstone. They will get to where the Bighorn River flows into the Yellowstone, north of Hardin, Montana today, and they will be coming down into this area. But let's talk about Custer coming up the Rosebud. June 22nd, 1876, he's going to be encamped. He's going to set up bivouac between a place where Colstrip and Lame Deer, right in between there. This is where Custer's Indian scouts come up on the remnants of Sitting Bull's Sundance. They tell the general that this is big medicine. And they also will come up on the Indian Trail. It's going to be a 1/2 mile wide trail of dug up earth from travois, horses, and foot traffic. 1/2 mile wide. They found the Indian Trail. His fresh general. Custer will continue to follow this trail up the Rosebud to a small town on the Northern Cheyenne Reservation called Busby today. This will be known as Custer's last camp. It's 21 miles east of us here off of Highway 212. This is where he'll be on the 24th of June. On the night of the 24th, Custer makes a decision. He's constantly receiving reconnaissance. He'll pack up his soldiers and march them all night long, which will be known as Custer's Midnight March, to a point in the Wolf Mountains called Crow's Nest. Custer gets to a place called Davis Creek. His Indian scouts, along with Lieutenant Varnum, climb up to the top of Crow's Nest in the early morning hours, and the sun will be coming up behind them. And they look down on the valley, down below the Little Bighorn River Valley. They will say that they need the general up there to come see. Custer makes his way up to Crow's Nest on the morning of this battle, June 25th, mid-morning. He looks down in the valley and he sees nothing but dust and smoke. The Indian scouts tell the general, look for what looks like worms in the grass. One translation is also maggots on a buffalo robe. What they're referring to is down in this valley, on the west side of the river, up on the bluffs, there's a place there called Shoulder Blade Ridge. That's where this encampment in this valley on the day of this battle kept the horse herd. 20,000 head of horses. And at that distance, it's looking like worms in the grass or maggots on a buffalo robe. Down in the valley on June 25th, 1876, the encampment has approximately 5,000 to 8,000 occupants total. This is women, children, elderly, and warrior numbers combined. Out of that 5,000 to 8,000, 1,200 to 1,500 are fighting-aged warriors. Their ages are anywhere from 14 to 40 and every age in between. These warriors have a variety of different firearms, everything from flintlock muskets to the most advanced rifle for the time, the repeating rifle. But not everybody has a repeating rifle. They have their bow and arrows, and they also have hand-to-hand combat weapons, club war sticks. This is the style of fighting that these warriors are extremely accustomed to, getting up close and personal to their enemy, clubbing them, sticking them to death. It's a style of fighting that they've been fighting on the plains for hundreds of years. It's going to be very different from what the soldiers are being trained out here on the frontier. Two very different fighting styles. On the night of the 24th, while Custer's making his midnight march down in the valley, there's singing, there's dancing, there's eating, there's families getting together, there's laughing, there's reminiscing, there's Cheyenne boys looking at Sioux girls, There's Sioux girls checking out Cheyenne boys. There's a celebration going on. There's a good time going on down in this valley. And those campfires have been burning all night long. The singing and dancing goes on until the wee hours of the morning. When Custer looks down on this valley on the morning of June 25th, he sees nothing but dust and smoke. He sees a haze. His reconnaissance is telling him that they're down there. Custer will make a decision to advance on this encampment. He'll take all 12 companies down what we call Reno Creek today. He'll send, when he gets closer to the Little Bighorn, he'll send Benteen south to scout out anything to the south. He'll order Major Marcus Reno to cross the river and advance on this encampment. And Custer will continue on the east side of the Little Bighorn River, continually coming north in our direction. Let's jump down in that valley. Reno's come across that valley. They're riding across. Custer has now come up over the bluffs, come up over a place called Weir Point, goes down into Medicine Tail Coulee. Reno has ordered his soldiers to halt, dismount, skirmish. Skirmish lines are Army tactics that were used for a very long time. They're being taught at West Point. That's where men stand 5 to 10 feet apart, dismounted. They will hear a command. They'll shoot volley fire. Reno orders his men dismount, skirmish. They begin to volley fire into the encampment. Custer's now in Medicine Tail Coulee. He'll attempt to cross the river and attack in that area. Cheyenne will counterattack. By this time, word has spread. Shots begin to whiz through the encampment. People begin screaming, yelling. The soldiers are here. The soldiers are attacking. Warriors are coming out of their teepees, coming out from the river area, coming out by the hundreds, grabbing their war clubs, grabbing their rifles, grabbing their bow and arrows, coming toward the firing. Women and children will have their elderly in tow, headed away from the firing to the north. Down on this valley, shots begin firing. This was before smokeless gunpowder. People are running. Horses are being brought down from Shoulder Blade Ridge. The air will begin to fill with dust and smoke. Warriors will be blowing eagle bone whistles. It's a really high shriek sound. You'll hear warriors yelling war cries, Hoka hey, it's a good day to die. It's a good day to fight. Warriors, go out, protect your people. Every single one of these warriors intends to die today. Die protecting their people. In these first few minutes of firing, when Reno and his soldiers are fired into the encampment, an Unkpapa war leader by the name of Gall, who's encamped at the southernmost end of the Indian encampment, will lose his 2 wives and his 3 daughters in the first few minutes of this battle. His entire family will be wiped out. He will later be interviewed and he will state that day, my heart was bad. He'll pick up his tomahawk. He'll vow to fight in this battle with just this weapon. Gall will survive. Down in this valley floor in that skirmish line, Reno was with Bloody Knife. This is Custer's favorite scout. He's half a Rikra and he's half Sioux. Bloody Knife gets shot in the middle of the forehead. He is right next to Reno. Everything in Bloody Knife's head is on Reno's face. Reno will experience tactical disintegration. He'll be wiping brain matter and skull fragments off of his face. He will yell to his soldiers, mount, dismount, mount up. Less than half of any of Reno's men hear any one of these commands. They will begin a panic escape or a rout through the timbery area at the south end of the village, across the river, and up to the high grounds 4.5 miles south of this battlefield, called the Reno Benteen Defense Site Battlefield. This is where Reno will order his soldiers dig in. Custer has attempted to cross the river at Medicine Tail Coulee. He will be unsuccessful. He will continue north. He'll come up on Greasy Grass Ridge. Warriors now are coming out by the hundreds. They're going to be counterattacking on the attack happening on their village. They will be on horseback. Some will be on foot. They will counterattack the soldiers. Custer will drop companies C, E, I, F, and L as a rear guard. They will be led by Captain James Calhoun. In this battle, the Custer family loses 5 members. They lose George himself. They will lose Captain Tom Custer. They will lose Captain James Calhoun, who was married to Custer's sister Margaret. These boys called her Maggie. They will lose Boston Custer, a civilian hired on with the pack train, who was Tom and George's youngest brother. And they will lose Arthur Reed, or Audie Reed, as he was affectionately known to the family. Him and George shared a middle name, so he was given the nickname Audie, just like his Uncle George. These 5 family members perished in the Battle of the Little Bighorn. It's a very sad time for the Custer family. The rear guard is at Calhoun Loop. Those soldiers fire. Custer will continue to where we are today, in front of the visitor center, in front of the cemetery, go down, trying to make it to the river, and he won't make it to the river. Warriors are coming in every direction. Custer continues to go back up to the high ground, what we call Last Stand Hill today. Warriors are coming up in every direction, surrounding this entire battlefield. You're going to have dust. You're going to have smoke. You're going to have wounded. You're going to have people yelling in agony who are dying. You will have warriors shouting out war cries. You will have mass confusion. You will have battle. Custer has now made his way back up to Last Stand Hill. Soldiers begin to come in this direction, up to Last Stand Hill. Soldiers will begin shooting their horses. Warriors are surrounding them. They're trying to make a breastworks of dead horses so they can be protected behind them. Warriors are coming in every direction, shooting, firing, getting down, changing position. Shooting, firing, getting down, changing position. With every changing of position, getting closer and closer to that hilltop. The last 2 minutes of the battle, eyewitness Indian accounts will state, we rained arrows on the soldiers on Last Stand Hill, and then their shots quit coming. They'll take the hill. 210 of Custer's soldiers will perish right here on this battlefield. You'll see white markers all about this battlefield where soldiers were buried, laid to rest, and later reinterred on Last Stand Hill. As soon as this battle is over, warriors rush to the south. Reno is digging in. Benteen arrives on that hill. Benteen's big question is, where's the general? For God's sake, Benteen, stay here and help me if I got wounded men, is what Reno tells Benteen. They dig in. There was hold up there for the next 2.5 days. On the 26th, the encampment begins to break up. They flee in all different directions. There's rumors of more soldiers coming from the north. 2.5 days later, a huge column of blue comes into the area. That's the Terry Gibbon column. They have just come up the Little Bighorn River and have came into this area in ghastly horror. They see what has happened to Custer and his men. They follow the dead body trail south. They relieve the Reno Benteen command down 4.5 miles south. Those men come back and they bury their dead comrades on this battlefield. The Centennial Campaign breaks up. They go in all different directions. Centennial heads up to Canada. He'll be a refugee in Canada. He'll later sign on with the Buffalo Bill Wild West show. He'll go to big cities and he'll say he doesn't understand why there's orphans. It's a very sad time in United States history. We're put on reservations. We're speaking English to you today. Hope you enjoyed my battle talk. This is Tanya signing out. Thank you and have a good day.